It's been a while since I've been able to check in on what's going on in Baltimore, and nobody better to do this check-in with than Mr. Team Keep It Clean himself and Raven. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good, man. That stuff with you, Q.
You know, it could be it's so much better than last year, right? Because with the Browns kind of doing this walk into the last year of Deshaun Watson, you can kind of tell that had ran its course.
Right.
But now it seems like the team at least is excited to be going back to their identity. And it's interesting because I feel like I understand the position the Ravens are in, not because of the Browns, but because of the Cavaliers, right? Where it's like, hey, man, I think this team can win a championship, but we keep doing stuff in the playoffs that makes me go, I don't know. I don't know, right? Like every year, everybody wants to suggest these drastic changes, but you feel pretty good about the core of your roster.
Right.
And I feel like it's a similar place to where Baltimore has been, where it's like you don't really feel like the reason you have failed in the playoffs has been solely about the roster. It's been about other stuff, about how that roster shows up. And this puts Baltimore in an interesting position because, like, do they really need to get better? They feel like it feels like they can win 12, 13 wins on command in the regular season, which indicates that you are a Super Bowl quality team. What is it in your mind that's going to take the Ravens over the hump here from being, they're already in that consistent three teams in AFC Super Bowl contender conversation. When do you go from that to actually getting to the Super Bowl? What do you think is going to be the key to getting there?
Turnovers. I would say turnovers on both offense and defense. For the past couple of years, the Baltimore Ravens have had teams that are good enough to not only get to but win the Super Bowl, but just turnovers have killed them on both sides of the ball. On offense, we look at the playoff game just last year against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They weren't turning that ball over like at all. They did their thing. They looked good. They were scoring points. They whooped up on Pittsburgh. But then when they went to play Buffalo, Lamar Jackson, he had a fumble, and then there was an interception, too. And while those turnovers, the Ravens only lost the game by what, 2 points? It was they dropped 2 point conversion at then Mark Andrews, he fumbled the ball too in the fourth quarter. So that was another turnover. So it what's frustrating about the Ravens in the playoffs is that they got the teams, they got the squad, they got the coaching staff, they got everything, but the turnovers, they kill them. And what makes it worse for us is like, man, you look back at it and you think, man, had they not fumbled right there, had they not threw that interception right there, had he not dropped, because everything still came down to a very last play. But you think, man, if they would have just held on to the ball, then we would have been okay. If they wouldn't have turned over the ball, then we would have been a-okay. And then you look at the defense when it comes to turnovers or lack thereof in the playoffs. Now I cannot blame the Ravens' losses in the playoffs on the defense not causing turnovers, but it is a contributing factor because it would help out a lot. Because I don't think we've had a turnover in the playoffs since
Has it been
Marcus Peters.
since? Yeah.
Marcus Peters got an interception against the Titans, and that was in 2020.
Yeah, that was
So,
one
that was a little
year
while ago.
after Derrick Henry threw ET out the
Look
league.
at him.
I still can't believe we ain't never seen him after that play.
It's crazy. That's crazy, man.
It goes
It's
quick in
crazy.
the NFL, don't
It
it?
does. That's why I stand for not for long, man.
Yeah,
But
but
it just we haven't been forcing no turnovers in the playoffs. So and what's crazy is that in a regular season we'll force a million turnovers. We'll force a billion turnovers, but come playoff time, the defense will play good now. But they just won't get the ball. They won't force turnovers. And when you force turnovers, it obviously it changes field position to give you an offense a nice advantage. But the defense just doesn't do it. But the biggest reason, in my opinion, still is just the turnovers on offense, way more than the ones that we don't force on defense.
so what I'm hearing is this is all Roquan Smith's fault. Okay.
I forgot you got your people Roquan Smith, man. Roquan, man.
He doesn't make the big plays on defense when it matters. You know, that's what I'm hearing right
Mm,
now. Just but in all seriousness,
mm,
it is a peculiar situation the Ravens are in because like you look at teams and you're like, well, where can they upgrade? And you usually
mm,
look at quarterback. I don't think you can really upgrade from Lamar
no.
Jackson. Like it'd be a foolish endeavor because
Mhm.
I would love if you think you could upgrade from Lamar Jackson, right? Like I would love if the Ravens decided we can get better than Lamar. Let's trade him to Cleveland, right? Like, hey, do that. That's fine. I'm fine with that. But you couldn't. It would be hard to upgrade there, right? The one area that I do look at the Ravens, and I usually clown the Ravens for their wide receiver rooms. I think this room actually is pretty decent this year, right?
Mhm.
You got what I think is very important with wide receiver rooms is a diversity of play style. And I think the
Yes.
Ravens have that this time, right? Where it's
Mhm.
like, the Ravens tend to always just kind of stockpile up these like fast 5'10" guys. And now it's like you got Rashad Bateman, who's more that route runner. You got, Zay Flowers, who is the archetype of what they look for, right? Small, really hard runner, really good with the ball in his hands. Might not be the biggest guy. And then you have somebody like DeAndre Hopkins, who I think the hope for him in Baltimore, you could tell me if I'm right or wrong on this.
Mhm.
The hope for him is like, hey, give us some flexibility at the goal line. Give us 50-50 balls here and there. Is that
Exactly.
what,
Them
what they're trying to
contested
do with him?
catches. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, that does what you talked about with diversity. Just that's the name of the game when it comes to Baltimore Ravens pass catchers. Or wide receivers. Like every offseason, we would always be begging for wide receivers. Oh, who we gonna get? Who we gonna sign? Who we gonna trade for? What wide receiver are we gonna acquire
Them
this year? Because we
DeAndre
need
Hopkins
somebody.
jersey swaps I've been seeing on Twitter for like 8 years finally have use. Finally, I've been begging for DeAndre Hopkins to play. Like, I know somebody cried the day the DeAndre Hopkins signed with the Baltimore Ravens because I have never seen a team want him and Devontae Adams. I was like, if they ever
Oh,
get
that
one of
was
those
another one.
two,
Yeah, yeah.
they've been begging for him.
Yeah. It's been a minute, but yeah, it finally happened. So, and we're just excited because initially we just looked at DeAndre Hopkins as, oh, he's gonna be our third receiver, and that's crazy to say as a Ravens fan, and that just shows how far we've come when it comes to the wide receivers. I remember last year, going into last season, Eric DeCosta, he talked about how bullish he was on Rashad Bateman, and that he was the Ravens were basically going to put all their eggs in the Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers basket. And I was thinking like, ooh, well, I know Rashad Bateman has shown us flashes before, but to go into a regular season with him as sort of the 1A, 1B receiver with Zay Flowers, I was like, I don't know about that. But last year he did his thing. He did his thing, and he showed up, and that last year was his best year ever. Baltimore Ravens, they signed him to a contract extension last season. It was super small contract extension. Like I think he was averaging like 5 or 6 mil per year. But then they gave him another contract extension this year. So they really showed that they do value Rashad Bateman. And then we added DeAndre Hopkins on top of that. And we've shown, like, especially under Todd Monken, when we watch the offense, just the growth of the offense from Greg Roman last year to Todd Monken's first year in 2024, and then Todd Monken's second year, which was last season. It was a crazy amount of growth, but especially at wide receiver. Now we can actually say, as Ravens fans, which is crazy, never knew we were going to say this, and we just never envisioned saying this, that we can actually develop wide receivers. It's a beautiful thing to say. Because before we were obviously a running back friendly offense. We was
Mhm.
definitely a tight end friendly offense for sure. But we were never really a wide receiver friendly offense. But now we finally are. And we actually had, for the very first time in the team's existence, had a Pro Bowl wide receiver, and that's like, and I know the Pro Bowl is a Pro Bowl. It's not all pro, but that's a huge
Hey, look,
accomplishment
that means something
from
to
our side.
Baltimore,
Oh
man.
yeah,
Because
no, it does. It
I
does for
remember y'all
sure.
was excited about Marquise Brown because when he had 1,000 yards, that was the second time
He
that
got,
happened.
yeah, oh yeah, that's my guy. Shout out to Hollywood, man. But
Yes.
with it's just been a beautiful thing to see, and that makes us that much more excited to add somebody like a DeAndre Hopkins, and even
Hmm.
to have a second year player like Tez Walker. He didn't do much last year, and I don't think there's like crazy expectations for him. But to know that, okay, now we can finally develop wide receivers, it just makes the offense that much better and that much more diverse.
Now let's talk about that offensive line because last year that
Mhm.
was the big point of emphasis with the Ravens. It's like, hey, look how many guys are coming in and out of that offensive line. And I
Mhm.
think at the beginning of the season, you saw them try to figure out their chemistry together. But by the end of the year, they looked a lot better. What's your outlook on the offensive line? Like, are you as a Ravens fan glad that they went through some of the strife that they did earlier last season of having all these new guys out there in the growing pains because now you feel like they're younger, better, going to be there longer?
Yeah. Yeah, last year was big because it so much just surrounded the health of Ronnie Stanley. What was it going to be with him? Last year they had even restructured his contract to where they cut out the last year of his deal. To where because he was supposed to be signed through this year, but last year they were like, no, we redoing his deal. They took away a lot of his guaranteed money. He actually took a pay cut. You know, a lot of times when you see players restructure their contract, they don't take any less money. But Ronnie Stanley actually took less money. He had to
Mm-hmm.
earn some of it back in incentives and whatnot and playtime, but he played every single game. He did not miss a single game. He played in all the playoff games, and we got a healthy Ronnie Stanley. That changed the trajectory of this team a lot. Roger Rosengarten was a second round pick last season. He was excellent. He was a left tackle, but he could play right tackle too. He ended up playing right tackle for us. And then at center, Tyler Linderbaum, who has been excellent for the most part throughout the beginning of his career. But at guards, at the guards, that's where we had the big question marks because at right guard we got Daniel Falele. He was up and down last year. He started to hit his stride a bit toward the end of the year, but it was his first year playing guard. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
in OTAs last offseason, the Ravens were like, oh yeah, it was reports coming out that the Ravens were trying him at guard, and I was thinking, oh, they just trying it out. They ain't gonna run with it. They're not gonna do that to the regular season. But you kept hearing those reports over and over and over. Then they went from OTAs, and they went to mini camp, then they went to training camp, and it's like, oh, they for real. So he actually is gonna be our guard. And then our other starting guard for the first couple of games of the last regular season, it was Andrew Voorhees, but then he got hurt. So then he went to Makari, and then they just stuck with Makari throughout the rest of the year. But now Makari, he was a free agent. He signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars this offseason. And so we have a vacant spot at left guard. It's most likely going to be Voorhees because he started last year, but then he ended up losing his spot to injury. So they'll most likely plug him back there. So it's nice to have some consistency along the offensive line. We just got to figure out who that left guard is going to be for sure. But health and consistency is a beautiful thing when it comes to protection for your quarterback, for opening up running lanes for the running back, and for giving your wide receivers time to get open.
The Ravens are like the most interesting team when it comes to their draft philosophy on the offensive line because they simultaneously have one of my favorite Senior Bowl players of all time, and that's Roger Rosengarten. And
Mm.
then at the online, and then like Daniel Falele was like one of my least favorite because I remember watching him get bull rushed by Majay
Oof.
Sanders, and I was like, he's too big for that. That's
Mm.
ridiculous. And I know Sonny. I remember telling Sonny about that. He was like, I don't know, Falele might have it, and then I think I turned Sonny into one of his biggest haters by
Mm.
accident because now he
Mm.
notices
Mm.
it
Mm.
every time that Falele does not look as big as he is on the football field, which can sometimes be the issue with him, right?
Yep.
And to be fair to him, it's an issue with a lot of guys who are that big because, like, I mean, like you are so much stronger than everybody else that you are
Hmm.
aware that you could hurt people, and sometimes that's a problem, right? That you don't want to actually hurt somebody, so you're used to taking a little off because if you go full speed all the time, you're gonna hurt everybody you play with. So I get why that happens. It's a tough deal for him. Let's talk about that Baltimore defense a little bit,
Okay.
right? I joked around, made fun of Roquan Smith, but the linebacker room's not where the Ravens have questions. It's really the DBs, right? The safety room, you're pretty solid there. You drafted Malachi Starks, do you feel like your boundary and slot corners are going to be able to hold up enough to let your safeties be able to stay in the position that they want them to be in, which has been the problem with Kyle Hamilton, which is he's had to move around so much out of necessity for the Ravens. So do you think this is finally the defensive back room that's going to allow Kyle to play free safety and Malachi Starks to stay back there and kind of halo the field for you guys?
We talked about earlier with the receivers how versatility was the name of the game. It's the same way on defense too, especially with somebody like Kyle Hamilton because He's just known for just playing everywhere, doing
Mm-hmm.
everything. You have him as safety, you have him as slot corner, you have him blitzing, you have him just doing so many different things. And we envisioned this season as the season to where Kyle Hamilton, he could be free to do that because we had our Darius Washington already, because they drafted Malachi Stark. So we were looking for that third safety so Kyle Hamilton could be freed up. Obviously, that he was going to be, he's going to be roaming the field sometimes. Sometimes he's going to be playing up by the line of scrimmage. He's going to be doing different things, but so were the other two safeties. But then when our Darius Washington, who was another starting safety of ours last year, when he went down with the torn Achilles about a month ago, that's when everything changed. It's like, oh man, here we go. So we lost
Mm-hmm.
him. They said he's trying to make a comeback by November, December. But even if he does and he's
Yeah.
cleared to play, it's we can't expect him to be the same from jump. And that's the very
Mm-hmm.
end of the season. Who knows how much we would even really get out of our Darius Washington at that point, coming off a torn Achilles. So we gotta kind of sort of write him off for this year, but at the same time, hope for the best. We'll just see what happens. But you can't count on him. Um, so now, as far as the secondary though, outside of the safeties, yeah, Marlon Humphrey, no, he could still ball out. Nate Wiggins had an excellent rookie year last year, but after that, it's like, okay. We signed Cheeto Awuzie. He's missed a good amount of time over the past couple of years. Physical cornerback. I think it is an upgrade over Brandon Stevens, who's also a very, very physical cornerback too. Excellent
Mm-hmm.
tackler, but just struggled to get his head turned around on the ball. Then we got Jalen Armour Davis, who he's missed a lot of time over the past couple of years, ever since he got drafted. I actually thought last season he was going to be released when the Baltimore Ravens drafted both Nate Wiggins and TJ Tampa. They drafted two corners, but they kept him around because they just really see a lot of potential in Jalen Armour Davis, but they haven't been able to keep him on the field because he's been hurt. We got second year cornerback TJ Tampa, who played, I think, want to say 18 snaps last year, something crazy low. So he doesn't have much experience. Then we drafted two cornerbacks this in this draft this year. So outside of Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins, it's a lot of question marks. It's a lot of question
Mm-hmm.
marks. Will Cheeto Awuzie stay healthy? And as a matter of fact, just yesterday, well on Monday, Cheeto Awuzie, he ended up getting hurt in OTAs. They said it doesn't look like anything too serious, but we'll find out soon enough how serious or unserious his injury is. So hopefully it ain't nothing crazy, but he got hurt. So it's a lot of question marks. It's a lot of question marks, and it's a lot of unknown in the secondary outside of Marlon Humphrey and Nate Wiggins. So could Baltimore add another veteran cornerback like a Jair Alexander just got released? But I know he missed a lot of time too. But I feel like if they were to sign like Jair Alexander, then sort of him and Cheeto, they could like cancel each other's missed time out, and they could all make up for
they
just one
get they
season
get
together. So
they get injured right at the right times, like, or is it something where it's like, hey, they're both out and both in sweats,
oh,
right? Like,
that would be unfortunate.
which that's usually how that goes. It's funny hearing Jair Alexander be called a veteran player because I believe wasn't he in like the 2018 draft?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
a
with
veteran
Lamar.
player now?
Yeah,
My
that's
goodness,
time
my
flies, man.
goodness.
It flies, man. It really does, man. It goes by so fast,
I
man.
remember watching him coming out of college at Louisville, right? So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how fast this thing goes. But
Now, I will
yeah,
say real quick about when you mentioned the linebackers, we actually do have question marks there because
mm,
obviously we got your guy, your favorite linebacker in the league, Roquan Smith. But alongside him, we don't know who is going to start next to him because uh, obviously 2 years ago it was Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen. They were a good duo because they got two completely different play styles, but they
yes,
complemented each other well. Patrick Queen, he went and got his money with Pittsburgh. But then we last year, at the beginning of the last year, it was Roquan and Trent Simpson. And a lot of us were thinking, all right, Trent Simpson, really fast linebacker, got a good burst to him, sort of similar to Patrick Queen, right? Then
hmm
he ended up getting benched because it wasn't looking good the first couple of games. He got benched and ended up just being a special teams guy for the rest of the year. So now they're saying that okay, he's going to try to have sort of a resurgence, resurrection to his career. Not that his career is over, obviously, but last year he got benched. But now he's going to try to get that spot back. The Ravens drafted Teddy Buchanan. They're saying he could be a possible starter at linebacker next to Roquan Smith. So it's one of those things that we'll see how it goes because there are question marks there. Who's going to be the guy next to Roquan? Because right now we don't know. We don't know. So hopefully they get that figured out ASAP.
It'll be okay because Roquan's presence alone is what I heard is enough to just make the Ravens a top 5 defense automatically, right? Like
Hey, I
just the
mean, hey,
vibe shift of Roquan Smith there, doing the pregame huddles, that should motivate somebody to be really good next to him. So, I'm not too concerned about that. They got the magical Roquan Smith right there. He can make anything happen. But yeah, do you think that the strength of the Ravens this year going to be well, I mean, like your strength's always going to be Lamar, right? Like
mhm.
when you have a player that dynamic. But like, how do you see the Ravens trying to win games this year? Also, like Derrick Henry, who had a 2,000-yard season, but is also, what is he, like 32?
It's 31, I believe.
31,
Yeah.
32. He was 2014 draft, right? So he's got to be close to 32 at this point.
Yeah, he getting
But
up there, but he can still put in work, man.
yeah, it's like how much longer, like how much do you, if you're the Ravens, and I know it's
Mhm.
the jokes about the Ravens, the M&T Bank retirement home stuff, and it's real. It's real. Like I can't wait for Hollywood Brown to get that return when he turned
Nah.
31, and yeah, it's gonna be a nice little return for him, in Lamar. But yeah, how long do you think you can ride that horse of Derrick Henry in your run game, and like what do you feel like you have behind him in order, like just in case if he starts to
Mhm.
slow down a little bit? Because with running backs, it just kind of happens one day
Mhm.
where it's like he's a 2,000-yard running back, and then now he's no longer able to get to 1,000 efficiently.
It's like, you know what? I don't even know because with Derrick Henry, when we signed him last offseason, I was thinking, all right, we signed Derrick Henry, cool, but we got so many other weapons. Derrick Henry, he'll probably get like 18 touchdowns, but he'll just get around or just over 1,000 yards, like maybe 990 something, or maybe like 1,020
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I didn't think he was gonna go for like 1,900.
I was betting
I was
big on the fall off. I thought it was over. I was like, no, it's gotta be over. And then he he
yeah.
he he
So
killed it.
yeah, he did. So I can't even call it because he obviously takes phenomenal care of himself.
Mm-hmm.
But it is one of those things where the Baltimore Ravens, he's excellent. He's a Hall of Fame running back, and he is actually 1,317 yards away from being a top 10 in all time rushing yards, which is crazy. Everybody else on that list is retired.
Wow.
Derrick Henry's still going. It's insane. So I think, yeah, definitely for the next couple of years, for sure. Right here, right now, though, the running back scenario is excellent for the Ravens because Derrick Henry, that's obviously our number one guy, but then Justice Hill, who a lot of people not very familiar with, but excellent pass catcher out of the backfield, good runner too. He came a long way because his first year or two wasn't looking so good. It was looking like it was a struggle, but over these past couple of years, he turned things around a whole lot and just has been excellent and has been amazing. I remember his rookie year and his sophomore year. Like if he would have went down with injury, then we would have been like, oh, okay, well Justice Hill's down with injury, ain't no big deal. But I remember last year when he got hurt in the Steelers game, we were like, oh man, we lost Justice Hill for who knows how long. Hopefully it ain't too long, but we were down because Justice Hill is nice now. And then behind him, we got Keaton Mitchell. And Keaton Mitchell, 2 years ago, he was lightning in the bottle. He was amazing. And he actually, we were supposed to trade for Derrick Henry 2 years ago, right at the trade deadline, but the Titans they vetoed it at the last second. But had they not vetoed that, then we would have got Derrick Henry then, but we didn't. So Keaton Mitchell got to get his shine on. Because if we would have got Derrick Henry, we would have never known about Keaton Mitchell like that. So we got Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, and Keaton Mitchell. Our linebackers are nice. We also got second year guy Rasheen Ali. He didn't really do too much last year, but running back situation is set up real nice right now. I remember before, and I'm sure other people thought the same thing too. I would think like, oh yeah, we could line up anybody next to Lamar Jackson as a running back, and they'll do just fine. And that was true for the most part. But with Derrick Henry, like it is different. Because to have a Hall of Fame running back next to a Hall of Fame quarterback, yeah, it has just opened up so much for the Baltimore Ravens offense, and their offense was already nice, but adding Derrick Henry to it and Derrick Henry doing what Derrick Henry does, it just made them that much more explosive and that much more dangerous too.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. All right. So, Graven, if I had to ask you, and I think I ask you this question every year when we do this,
All right.
is One, what is, if we go through every AFC North team,
Mm-hmm.
what is your biggest concern about playing each of these teams? Well, biggest new concern about playing each of these teams as constructed. So when I say new concern, that means Myles Garrett off the table for Cleveland, right? That means like, TJ Watt. We know that exists. What problems have each team in the AFC North added to their roster this year that concerns you the most when it comes to the Ravens' ability to be able to take care of business against those teams?
I feel like with the Browns, it's just the unknown because the Browns are like they're a team that you could look at them. Oh man, the Browns, factory of sadness. They this bad team. They've been a bad team for a long time, but some reason they always getting one on us. Like every year, it seems like. Like even last year, like
It was
I'm
crazy
like,
we got one on y'all last year.
yeah. So it's like the Browns. You could look at them. Oh man, they this, they that. But you gotta like even when I was doing in a video I was doing a season game by game prediction, and I already said man, the Browns are the Browns, but still like I expect them to get one on us because that's just what they be doing, and it's annoying, it's frustrating, especially last year. Like I'm like, who was it, Jameis Winston?
Jameis Winston got in
I'm
there
like,
with
really? Yeah, we
three
dropping picks.
touchdowns, no
Yeah, he
interceptions,
throwing
like
it on
300
everybody. Oh,
with a game winner.
yeah, I think that's a game that got Eddie Jackson cut. But anyway, yeah, the Browns. I just think it's the unknown. It's them just being sort of just that pest to the Ravens in the AFC North. But also when you look at, and obviously it's been talked about a million and one times, what's their quarterback situation gonna be? I don't expect it to be Deshaun Watson, but is it gonna be Joe Flacco? Is it gonna be Dylan Gabriel? Is it gonna be Shador Sanders? Kenny Pickett done beat us before on the Steelers, so it's like what's it gonna be? It's just a lot of unknowns there, and that unknown is actually what got us the last time. Because I believe right before we played Jameis Winston, y'all changed who was gonna be calling the offensive plays,
Yes.
and yeah, also and changed quarterbacks too. So it's
Yes.
like Ravens could have been preparing for one guy, then the whole thing was switched up, and obviously it worked. So there's that. As far as the Steelers. A lot of people I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers, he washed, he this, he that. That to me, that's a big upgrade for Pittsburgh because
Really?
Mike Tomlin, I feel like Mike Tomlin, I don't want to say he's overrated, but I feel like with Mike Tomlin, he gets a lot more praise than he deserves because the reason I say this, he's not a bad coach, but I feel like people hold on to he's never had a losing season before. And technically that's true. But a lot of those seasons were like 8-8, 9-7 before. Now they added another game, and that's so he just is over 500. So I'm like, yeah, he had
Or
a losing season, but I'm like, it ain't technically a winning season. Like, it's technically a
it's
winning season, but it
also,
ain't.
it's like, do you factor in, and this thing I don't think people talk about enough with Mike Tomlin, what about disappointing seasons? Right? Like, those are just as bad as losing seasons when you start the year out like 11-0
Ooh, that's a
and
good
then
point.
you
I ain't
lose in
think
the
about that.
first round. Like, that gets people fired, right? Like, that's more dangerous than going under 500. They've had so many seasons where they've gone like 7-2, 7-4. You're thinking they about to win the division, and then the next thing you know, they losing to Kansas City in the first round, and they won 10 games. And it's like, yeah, you're getting over 500, but like a lot of these years were disappointments, and that's not even reaching in to the Triple B era, right? Where constant playoff disappointments. And that's the thing I don't think people bring up enough about Mike Tomlin is you look at the disappointments they've had at the end of the season, it's really not that different from a guy who constantly gets clowned for it, who has a similar resume to Mike Tomlin, which is like Mike McCarthy. Where you look at Mike and you like, yeah, Mike always gonna do this stuff, but then like with his Mike Tomlin, we don't say nothing about the same exact stuff that be going down in the playoffs with Mike, be going down with the other Mike, right? But Mike Tomlin kind of just gets away with it a lot better than McCarthy does because he was never deemed the issue there. So it is interesting. Like, he's a great coach. Don't get me wrong. I just think a great coach ain't gonna keep you over 500. Like, you can have Andy Reid, but if your team stink, your team gonna be a 6-win team. Like, that's my whole thing with Mike. Is just I think people give him a lot, and also, when was the last time that you felt like the Steelers defense lived up to its potential? And isn't that Mike Tomlin's preferred side of the ball? Like,
they're a tricky team.
Yeah, it's like it's always kind of been like, oh, you got more out the offense than you thought you would. But like, are we giving that to Mike? He's fired like 4 offense coordinators. But I agree with you on the point of like, I don't know if he's overrated, but I do think his impact is overstated. How about that? It's a good way to get around.
I like that. So yeah, they're a tricky team, but I do really feel like with them adding Aaron Rodgers, that is a big upgrade over just the guys that they've had over the years. Justin Fields was winning early last year. I mean, everything he talked about with how they start off these seasons hot, and they literally did it last year too. They started off the season hot, but then they ended up plummeting. They were even in the lead for the division toward the end of the year, but they obviously didn't get it. Now with the Bengals are another team that they were literally like inches away from beating the Ravens last year. We beat them by like a hair last year. It's two crazy games. But I enjoyed them since the Ravens won. They were very dramatic too. Very they take the life out of you too. But Bengals you said something unknown though. Unknown, I would say their defense. Yeah, because their defense last year, our defense was through the first 10, 11 weeks, it was all kind of bad last year. I would tell people, man, like there's only 32 teams in the league, but Ravens defense through those first 10 weeks, they were ranked like 36. They were that bad. But then they made some benchings. They benched Marcus Williams. They benched Trenton Simpson. They cut Eddie Jackson. They made some strong, bold moves, but that turned the defense around a lot. The Bengals defense, they ain't never get turned around last year. But now it's a lot of unknowns. They just released Jermaine Pratt. And I know they said that he actually requested to be traded on February 12th. So he was ready to get up out of there. They took their time with him though. But with everything going on right now with Trey Hendrickson, is he gonna stay? Is he gonna get traded away? I think he ends up staying, but we'll see. Their first round draft pick, Shamar Stewart. He ain't been practicing yet, still having his little hold in with the contract dispute because they working out some language with that. But my biggest unknown with the Bengals is how is their defense going to be compared to last year? Because I already expect their offense to just go crazy. They got probably the best 1-2 punch at wide receiver, not only in the AFC North, but probably in the league. There's some other guys that could mess with them too. Like in my opinion, I think of Tyreek Hill and a Jalen Waddle. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and there's some other guys too. But Bengals got one of the best wide receiver 1-2 punches in the league. So they're gonna do their thing. We know Jamar Chase the offense gonna do their thing. But how will that defense be? And if that defense, I don't ever expect them to catch up to the offense. But if that defense can be decent, then Bengals, they could be a problem too.
I think also with the Bengals, the question is like how their defense matters, because I think that's when the Bengals have been able to get to the Super Bowls, when their defense is good. And I think the reason the defense has mattered so much is because that offense, as explosive as it is at the high end, if you look at their consistency, they're not as consistent as you would think an offense with the best wide receiver or one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL would be, right? There are these long stretches where you watch the Bengals and you're like, why are they going 3 and out so often, right? Like their offensive efficiency is not where it has ever needed to be for whatever reason under Zach Taylor. And that to me is like, if the Bengals ever figure out that problem, it can really mask a lot of the other issues that they have going on. Because we haven't had a season where we're like, the Bengals are putting up the most points in the NFL. As much as we talk about all the weapons that they have on offense, it's always, look at what Joe Burrow's doing in these specific moments, but it's not like they're putting up and averaging ridiculous numbers like they could like you would expect they would. And I think that's the thing that holds Cincinnati back, right? Like, where's that offensive efficiency? Why isn't it happening? Is it Zach Taylor? Is it the offense? Is it Joe Burrow? Is it Jamar? Like, what's the breakdown here with the consistency there? If they ever figure that out, they're going to be, kind of like the greatest show on turf, right? You remember them back in the 2000s, the Rams, where they just put up incredible numbers on a consistent basis. But until they can do that, I wonder about them being able to live up to the expectations that people kind of have for them. I kind of think of them like the Pacers. Like, if they get to the Super Bowl again, it'll feel a lot like the Pacers, where like they just get hot at the right time and they're just rising the playoffs and they win, and they're just like this really annoying team that could have not made it to the playoffs. But, once they're in there, they're a bit of a problem. So I agree with you there with Cincinnati. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. When I look at Baltimore this year and I look at what's new with them, because what Lamar is going to do to you every year. The respect that you have to have for Lamar Jackson. I think it's about that secondary, right? Like, can you attack that secondary? Can you put points up on Baltimore? And also, is this wide receiver room going to hold up for Baltimore as well as they hope it does, right? Like, if we put a bunch in the box, can Baltimore put up 40 on us by just attacking with their wide receivers and pivoting, right? Like, or do they feel like they just have to just kind of punch through the hole and decide that they're going to break the box that way? That's the big thing with Baltimore, right? I think their issues have been in the playoffs, on top of turnovers, as we mentioned earlier. It's been the ability to pivot. Like, a game is going a certain way. Kansas City's like, all right, this is going to be this kind of game. We're going to play this way. And then Baltimore's like, nah, we still going to try to throw this thing like 40 times, right? Like, that's how we try to win games here. Or we're going to put the ball in Lamar's hands. It's like, hey, can they be more flexible with their paths to winning in the playoffs? I think that's the big thing with Baltimore there. But anything else you got to say about Baltimore before we head out, man?
Just finish. That's what we're hoping they just finish. Again, they've been in position to. They done had the teams too. They got everything that they need. It's just a matter of putting it all together and getting it done. So we'll see how this year goes. Hoping for the best. Expecting good things too, and hopefully they blow our expectations out the water in a good way.
Well, they want to lose in the playoffs again, man. Like, I ain't got no problem with that, me personally. Like, I find it entertaining how y'all be losing in the playoffs at the end of the year. It's one of my favorite things. Once the Browns get eliminated from playoff contention, I'll be like, all right, next thing to know, how the Ravens gonna mess this up. Because, like, it'd be incredible. Y'all be looking unbeatable during the regular season. Man. I'll be like, it's going to be inevitable. They going to get, and then every time I'm like, hold on. They gonna do something. Mark Andrews gonna dribble the football. Zay Flowers gonna do the DeAndre John. Like, it's like something always happens, and it's spectacular. I was like, the Ravens love shooting themselves in the foot the last couple of years. So if y'all want to do that again, be my guest. I would appreciate it, especially if the Browns don't make the playoffs. Well, especially if the Browns make the playoffs. I would love if y'all would did that. But appreciate you, Engraven. Make sure you guys go check out Engraven on YouTube. YouTube, you do the @ right? Like the slash, it's like @EngravenVids.
Yes, @EngravenVids TKIC. Oh, so yeah, man. Yeah. Appreciate you having me on as always, man.
Absolutely, Engraven. Y'all have a great day. Everybody else, have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.